Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the special joint Hayward City Council Redevelopment Successor Agency and Housing Authority Board meeting. Today is June, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is June 17th, 2025. And I'd like to call upon Council Member HRSA and HHA Board Member. We also refer to him as Councilmember Goldstein. Can you lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance?
I think I remember how. Thank you. Please rise if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Madam City Clerk, if you please take roll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. This is also for the Redevelopment Successor Agency and the Housing Authority. Member Andrews?
Present.
Member Bonilla Jr.?
Present.
Member Goldstein?
Present.
Member Roach?
Present.
Member Syrup?
Present.
Member Cermeño? Mayor and Chair Salinas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call upon our acting city attorney, Mr. Vigilia, for a closed session announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council met in closed session at 5:30 pursuant to published notice in the Brown Act. With all members present, the council discussed 3 items as listed on the agenda. Item number 1 was a conference with legal counsel, Tony Chaplin versus the City of Hayward. Direction was given to legal counsel, but otherwise no reportable action was taken. With respect to the 2 public employment items, I will defer to you, Mayor.
Thank you. The council had 2 discussions. One discussion, we took no reportable action. The second discussion, the council voted with Mayor Salinas making the motion, Mayor Pro Tem Roach seconding the motion, and what we will be doing starting July 1st is we will be appointing our library director, Gianti Adelman, as interim city manager, taking the spot after acting city manager, who is also our city attorney, Mr. Lawson. And so it was unanimously voted, and I wanted to congratulate Ms. Adelman, Director Adelman, for the appointment. And if her colleagues want to give her a round of applause, we can certainly do that. Also, it was unanimously voted, and we will take action next week on June 24th, the official action. But it's good. Congratulations. So that was the second action we took. So I will move on to our next item, which is a special presentation. And the presentation we have is our Juneteenth acknowledgement. And today in the audience, we have from the NAACP, we have Philip Oliver and Rahima Walker, both sitting right there. We can give them a round of applause, you know. I mean, we also have Treasures Unleashed. And there you go. And Dorothy Dominic, who's the founder of Treasures Unleashed. Ms. Dominic? Okay. She waved at me, so I guess she's in the room. And then the West Coast Blues Society, of course, Ronnie Stewart, Mr. Stewart. And then, of course, representing the city of Hayward, our and the reason why I'm laughing is our library services director, who starting July 1st will be our interim city manager, Gianti Adelman, is here. So, and I do have proclamations. Let's see, one of them is, I think this. Of course, I signed them, but I mixed them up. Oh, no. Christopher took them. He took the other ones. Okay. Here, I'll give that one to you. Okay. I will read, I'm going to read the last 4 whereases, but I wanted to, before I read this, I really wanted to thank our colleague, Councilmember Angela Andrews, who really putting Juneteenth front and center in the city of Hayward and here on the city council. She has successfully launched the annual Juneteenth celebration here in the city of Hayward. And every year they've been successful. They grow every year. And so I just wanted to show our appreciation for your work and your dedication to making sure that we acknowledge this incredible and important historical event in not only in California, but throughout the United States. So whereas Juneteenth Fest will include live music, spoken word, dance, and drama performances, exhibitions, vendors, refreshments, and activities for children. And although it doesn't say it here, it's this Saturday, right? And I know you're going to say it, you'll make the announcement at the end, so this Saturday. Whereas the city of Hayward is committed to centering racial equity in our processes and projects to better serve the needs of Black and marginalized communities through its strategic racial equity action plan. And whereas Hayward will host ceremonial flag raisings of the Juneteenth and Pan-African flags on June 18th, 2025, in recognition of the long history of African American liberation efforts, and fly the flags during the last 2 weeks of June. Now, therefore, I, Mark Salinas, Mayor of the City of Hayward, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2025, as Juneteenth National Independence Day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give this a big round of applause. And then why don't the groups come up forward, and then the council, we can all go down, because I think there's enough proclamations to go around. So, all right. So at the NAACP, Treasures Unleashed, West Coast Blues Society, and of course, the City of Hayward.
Before everyone comes up, if they want to say a few words, they can start lining up here. Everyone that received a proclamation, if you want to come up and say a few words. But in the interim, I just want to thank everyone who has been involved in planning the event that's going to happen this Saturday at Heritage Plaza from 2 to 6 p.m. We're going to have a lot of good activities. I see Jim Wheeler from Hard here. He's going to bring me a rock wall and a bunch of other good things for the kids zone. Yep. Okay, great. We also are going to have a lot of presentations from the Black Cowboy Coalition. We're also going to have many musical acts that I'm sure Dorothy's going to list all of them that are going to be here, but I'm just really excited that everyone's continuing to celebrate this important occasion, and I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. So, Dorothy, do you want to come up first and talk about the event a little bit more? And then also, Lauren Jennings could not be here tonight to accept her proclamation, but the Best Me has been also instrumental in making this event a success every year. So want to give her a shout out tonight.
All right. Hello, Mayor Mark Salinas, City Council members, and honored guests. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dorothy Dominique. I'm the founder of Treasures Unleashed and the nonprofit Hidden Jewels Unleashed. It's an honor to accept this proclamation on behalf of my organization, work with youth in the community, and to stand present amongst those who are change makers. As a poet and creative director, I believe in the power of the creative expression of the arts, not just to entertain, but to heal, empower, and unify, which is my organization's motto. Through my youth program, I have seen young people in Hayward and across the Bay Area find their voices, celebrate their identities, and rewrite their narratives through spoken word, theater, and cultural celebration, like our free annual Pan-African production that merges theater, dance, fashion, spoken word, which will take place this year at the Hayward Veterans Memorial Building on August 30th at 3 p.m., and also through my annual Dear Diary, My Creative Expression events, which also happens in April, celebrating the creative voices of the youth and adults. Lastly, as a member of the Hayward Juneteenth Committee, I'm thrilled to be a part of this upcoming Juneteenth Fest, which will take place, of course, this Saturday, June 21st, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Heritage Plaza. I'll be the MC for the pavilion stage, and the Treasures Unleashed IM youth students will be performing a short play, The Day of Jubilee, at 2:50, along with other amazing performers such as Mo Soul, Leo and the Blues Band, Antoine Fisher. Also, we're going to have dynamic Dancing Cobras from Martin Luther King Middle School. We will also be having the Monarch Soul Steppers from Mount Eden. We will have the Sounds Definition drumming with Eric Bleebley from Ivory Coast, along with KGKM Radio DJ. And we will also have the West Coast Caravan All-Star Reviews featuring the C Strength Brothers, along with many other performers. We want to thank all the sponsors who helped make this event happen. And this is a celebration of freedom, creativity, and community. For those who want to learn more about my organization and how we can contribute, you can visit us at www.treasuresunleashed, plural, unleashedpasttense.com, and we have a link of our upcoming events. And this proclamation isn't just about me, it's about every young person who ever stepped onto a stage, pick up a pen, or dare to believe they matter. I am Miss Dorothy with Treasures Unleashed and the nonprofit Hidden Jewels Unleashed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and Honorable City Council members, I'm Ronnie Stewart, Executive Director, West Coast Blues Society. I want to thank you for our continued relationship with an extremely important day. In this musical extravaganza this year, we have Hayward's own Hopi and Pueblo Indian with the blues, Chief Eli the Chief, and we got Leo in the Blues Knockouts. He was working with Muhammad Ali, Dick Sadler, and he had what was your champion's name? What was your champion's name? You work with him too, but he worked with another boxer.
I came after George Foreman.
Yeah, but he's Hayward, right up to the homeowner. I just kind of want to let you know that the city of Hayward is represented, and both of these are national acts. And I just want to say we're happy. And we're going to have, again, always the Russell City Memorial Blues Band, who have done all sorts of accomplishments. We have Fillmore Slim, who Nick Cannon and Snoop Dogg is going to play his life story in a movie, TriStar Pictures. So the city of Hayward is going to be put on the map. And I want to say, Angela and Dorothy we didn't get the makeup at Channel 4, but they still done a great job. They've done a great job of promoting this, and I worked hard trying to make this happen. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the recognition, proclamation. And again, I really want to thank Leo and Eli for coming and representing Hayward. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you Saturday.
Thank you. And NAACP?
Hello, everybody. We want to thank you, really do, for starting this. You're a catalyst for us at the NAACP. We speak about you all the time. Also, the Hayward Police Department, we feel safe here, right? We seen the event over the weekend, right? And it was active, it was pronounced, and it was very, very put together. It was good. It was good. It was healthy. One of the things that we've seen for is a need. Let me tell you who I am. I'm Philip Oliver, third vice president of the NAACP, right? Also director of the Legal Redress Committee, right? We own a couple of companies, right? And we try to give back to the community, right? One of the things that we've seen, it was a need for vacation in Hayward. So what we did is we created a vocational academy. We start our school Thursday. Exactly on Thursday. We're going to start it at the Union Hall in San Francisco, and it's a vocational trade school. We will be teaching all the trades, every single trade, and I am the director of that, right? So keep your ears open, pay attention to what's going on, because we're going to pay attention to you guys as well. But we really thank you. We appreciate all of you, everything that you guys do. We've been watching, and I know you guys been watching us. So you guys are our catalysts. Hey, we're going to follow suit with y'all as y'all be the example. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Zachy Body and Justin Redmond. They have been working tirelessly on this event as well. So thank you all for your support and look forward to Saturday.
Okay, seeing no more presentations, I will close this item, move on to public comment. Public comment is reserved for people in the public that would like to come and make a comment on something that is not on the agenda. We have one card in front of me, and this person, Glenn, is it Okel? Glenn Okel? Did you leave? Mr. Okel? Yeah, you're up.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Glenn Okal. I am, I'm a Silicon Valley veteran, and in my retired years, I moved to Hayward and wanted to do something for my community. I've been running Fulton Care, residential facility for mentally ill people, disabled people. Right now, I had 14 people. Providing housing for them for the last close to 10 years and wanted to grow that. And the reason that I'm here is in year 2021, right after COVID times, I wanted to have additional rooms because I have 2 people in the room and wanted to have quarantine rooms if one of them gets sick. I just don't want to have a disaster because we have quite a few facilities in the area. And so I'm sorry I have that breath. So in 2021, I applied for the permit, and I went to planning department and building departments. On the fire section, I was told that I need to have sprinkler system all around. And that was like prohibitively expensive. It was way above my cost, and I just gave up. And I stopped, I pulled back, basically I canceled my permit. Then 2021 to just 2000, basically last year, November, I started again. And this time I have a really good experienced architect, and we flew through building department permits and planning department permits. And that time, now fire department, basically Andrew Westfield is the person. He wasn't his position right now. So I asked him to come and see the place. And I told him, this is like additional room, it's not the whole building. I'm trying to add 6 more rooms for the same purpose. And is it okay? What does it take to expand this? And he said that I would be requiring putting sprinkler system on addition. And that was like $25,000 cost. And I said, okay, fine. And I did basically architecture and the permits and everything. It cost me $45,000. And when I went through the permits, when permit is issued, he turned around and said, no, you need to do the whole building. You need to enlarge the water meter, which is gonna cost like $60,000. Then I'm gonna dump my current smoke detector. It's gonna cost me $50,000 more, and I will be paying ADT or private company another $400 a month for monitoring fee. So my whole budget was $400, and with this change, my budget added up another $250,000, which is like, killed me. I just stopped it. And so I wanted to talk to him, and he basically arrogantly said that, you know, I didn't kill you. Basically, during that time, I have 2 people died from COVID in my house. Mm-hmm. And that's like killing me.
Mr. Okel,
yes.
Your time is up. However, we do have your card. What I'll do is I'll ask staff to contact you tomorrow, and we can try to resolve this in the days to come. We can't respond to you from up here tonight, but if you give us some time, we can have this researched, and then staff can call you back. We do have your number and your address here, and we can call you back.
May I have like 20 seconds?
I can give you 10 more seconds if you can wrap it up.
Yeah, basically, I just wanted to have this project alive, and I'm trying to help homelessness in Hayward. Mm-hmm. And I like to get help from you guys.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, and I will have staff reach out to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Online, we have Alejandro Hasso.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, I'm here to talk about the decision about Hayward Boulevard. Just because this is a decision that impacts every one of us, whether you drive, walk, or bike, whether you live on the hills or not. We all pay for the roads, for these road repayments, and even though a lot of people think that the gas tax pays for the road repayments, these are also paid by the BB fund, which comes from sales taxes, and I think the failure of like not considering a safe space for people that cannot drive in Hayward. There's at least 45,000 residents that cannot drive due to age or disability, or because they cannot afford a car. You're failing to provide space for them. And I don't think you've ever been on the sidewalks on Hayward Boulevard, but they're very narrow. You cannot even fit a bike. Also, I think my nephew goes to Stonebridge, so this decision was a major disappointment from my family, because my nephew loves it when we pick him up by bike, and he was looking forward to get an e-bike so that he could ride to school, because traffic backs up like once you hit Stonebridge, because everybody drives their kids to school. Sure, it's a steep hill, but e-bikes are a good solution for these hills. and you're failing to plan for that. E-bikes are just becoming more common, and you're failing to plan for that. Also, the city spent $150,000 on a safety study to improve the safety of pedestrians and people biking on Hayward Boulevard. There were solutions and concerns were addressed by staff, which we pay really high salaries for because they're experts, and you're failing to listen to them. Even the fire department was in support of the project to improve safety and add a mobility lane on Hayward Boulevard. And I'm just really concerned because this continues to be a waste of public funds. And also, now that you decided not to move forward with any safety improvements, the city can get sued because if there's another fatal crash, just like the one that happened like a few months ago, the city can get sued because you failed to take action after all the data was presented showing you that there was not enough traffic for that amount of car lanes, and the road could be improved and made safer based on the recommendations by staff. And Hayward is at a budget deficit. By having excess car capacity, we're essentially putting that extra maintenance cost into the future. Essentially, we don't need such a wide roads, and we should reduce the number of lanes if the traffic does not need it. If there's no traffic that requires
Mr.
it.
Hassel, your time is up, and so I wanted to thank you. And I'm going to go to our next speaker. I don't have anyone else online, and I don't have any more cards in here. So I'm going to close public comment, and then I will move on to our our city manager's comments. So Acting City Manager Lawson.
I'll be taking on those comments.
Ms.
Mr.
Regina
Mayor.
Youngblood, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I wanted to use tonight's city manager comments to highlight a couple of upcoming community events organized by city staff. The first one, you've heard a lot about, the Juneteenth Fest 2025 on Saturday the 21st. But moving on from that, I just wanted to give a little information about the history. African American communities have celebrated June 19th as the effective end of slavery in the United States for more than 150 years. And in 2021, Juneteenth became a federally recognized holiday. Throughout the month of June, the Hayward Public Library will commemorate Juneteenth with book displays, decorations, and special programming. The City of Hayward will also raise the Juneteenth and Pan-African flags on tomorrow, June 18th at noon, in recognition of the long history of African American liberation efforts, which inspired racial equity and freedom movements around the world. Also, on June 21st, the City of Hayward, in partnership with the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency, will host a class on the art of successful succulent gardening at the downtown Hayward Library, Room C. This event will take place from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The class is the first of a series of free hands-on classes to help residents create beautiful gardens while conserving water. In this session, residents can learn about succulents, including the ideal planting conditions, practical tips for planting and caring for succulents, as well as the plant's benefits and overall charm. Attendees can bring a container to plant their own succulent and enjoy its distinct character at home. To sign up, community members can visit the City of Hayward's events calendar on the city's website. Those conclude the comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so I will move on to our consent calendar. Item number 7 is going to get carried over till June 24th. And then I do have a public comment on item number 4. And I believe, Mayor Pro Tem, you had a comment too. Okay. So this, and
a comment on 10.
Okay. So let's do this. I'll first entertain questions. And Mayor Pro Tem Roach, why don't you go ahead, and then I'll call on Councilmember Syro.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question of staff on item number 13, the TOT increase. I guess there was two questions. One, I just want to say, I know this was reviewed in the Budget and Finance Committee per staff's recommendation that it be reviewed. And I wanted to confirm that it was unanimous from the Budget and Finance Committee that you agreed to go, okay, to 12%. Okay, thank you. And then my other question was about the 2% excise, because there was some conversation about it in that last meeting with Budget and Finance. Maybe our Budget and Finance Director can come up. So the staff report says that excise tax, I'll wait till you get up here, thank you, Mr. That the 2% excise tax will expire in December 2027. So I just wanted to ask you, like, will that just fall off at that point? Will that be a conversation then? What is the trajectory of that excise tax?
As of now, good evening.
Thank you.
As of now, the excise tax would just sunset on December 31st, 2027, absent council action and I believe voter action. And so staff is taking the assumption that it will just sunset at that point.
Okay. So it would be a vote. That would be a voter action. It would have to go back to the ballot on that one. Okay. All right. Thank you. I wanted to double check on that one. Thank you very much. And those are all the questions I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Syro.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge Commissioner Wu, who will be resigning from the Personnel Commission, and just appreciate having the opportunity to work with her over the last year plus. Her contributions were valued, and I think we made great strides in the Personnel Commission together in helping reform it with the help of the HR department. So thank you, Commissioner Wu.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions up here. I will go to, I do have a card, Danny Rivera for item number 4. Mr. Rivera. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor. How are you? Just want to come in regards to the special assessment for unpaid program fees and penalties. So I live in Hayward Boulevard near Stone Brae. Lived there for 35 years. I'm here with my wife, Freddie. And as you know, it's a very steep hillside. And so I actually brought some soil to reduce the erosion in my backyard and my steeps. I was given a notice that I was allowed 100 cubic yards. And but when an inspector came to look at it, apparently because of the grading, it was 0 amount of yards that I could put in there unless I get a grading permit, right? So I went out to try to get a grading permit. Very difficult for such a small project, right? I did some work with one gentleman who's a very good friend of mine, a civil engineer from Oakland. He presented some material. It wasn't enough, right? So I pounded the streets trying to find somebody. I finally did. However, I was given penalties, 3 of them, on October the 8th, November the 1st, and November the 25th, all for $2,000 for failing to have that, not erosion, but grading permit, right? So I understand it took a long time, and I understand that I have to pay the penalties, but I'm not sure why I'm being given 3 penalties, right, on the same exact issue. So I would like to just ask for mitigation, and it's about to go, apparently by 1st of August, this will double or possibly triple, because it'll be an assessment on my property, and $6,000 will become $15,000, and it continues on. But I am working with the city. I'm working with Kathleen. I'm working with all the different engineers that are in the city. I already have a proposal. I found somebody in Concord. We did a topography flyover of the property. He has a topography of the entire property. We do have what's called what did I just call it? But it is a grading permit, and that it's already been submitted. All I'm asking for is a mitigation of these penalties, and that should be, I'll pay, but I should be paying one, right, with $2,000.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's my
Thank you. So we can't respond to you
Of
up here, and
course.
but I will give this to staff. I do have your address. I
Yes.
do have your phone number, and then somebody will reach out to you, and then let's see how we can resolve this.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Members, appreciate it.
We did receive an email today
Yes.
from
Mr.
the
Rivera?
speaker, and I think it's already been referred to staff for review and evaluation. Thank you. We have your information, sir.
Outstanding. That's what I showed her. Thank
See,
you so
we did
much.
all of that just by sitting right here. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, acting city attorney, or not the acting city attorney, but acting city manager. Thank you very much. Okay. Seeing no more public comment, I will close public comment. I will come back up here on the dais, and I certainly will entertain a motion.
I'll move the items.
Moved by Councilmember Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein, and I believe if there are no objections, this will unanimously pass. Thank you. Moving on to
Mayor, can I just make a note? I'm really excited that we're awarding the bid for La Vista Park to begin, and I just want to thank our partners at HARD for supporting us in those efforts. So thank you, HARD, for helping us make this happen.
yes. Here's yes. Thank you, Councilmember Syrup, for that. And as Mr. Wheeler, our general manager from HARD, as he walks out, just a couple things. And I know Rick Hatcher is walking out. Director Hatcher from the HARD board. A couple things. One, HARD has been a great partner. Particularly with respect to this project. I know our Public Works Director, Mr. Amiri, is sitting there. I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank your team. Certainly want to thank the HARD board for all of your work and your partnership on this. Mr. Amiri, sometimes I know working with the Hayward Area Park and Recreation Department can get gnarly. No, I'm kidding. But I do know that when we, these types of projects are very complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, and somehow your team and HARD's team figures out a way to get it done. So I wanted to say thank you, Mr. Wheeler, for all of your work and your leadership on this. And I did know we did receive an email earlier this week urging us to pass this. And so, and we did do that. So thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Next, we're moving on to our work session titled Work Session, item number 15, WS25-028, Public Art, Consideration of a Public Art Development Impact Fee. And I believe this report will come to us by way of Acting City Manager Lawson. And Mr. Lawson. I believe the report is going to come to us by way of Mr. Zach Ibadi. Mr. Ibadi, go right ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Like Mr. Lawson said, my name is Zach Ibadi. I'm the Community Partnership Manager for the city. I have the pleasure of presenting this report to you this evening as the City and Art and Mural Program relocated to the Community and Media Relations Department within the City Manager's Office. And although I'm presenting the information, this research was a collaborative effort involving multiple departments within the city. There are two main goals for this evening's work session. First, I would like to present the initial findings on the creation of an impact fee for public art. Then I will seek guidance from the council on whether to move forward with the next steps to implement the impact fee. I want to begin by providing some background information on the project. The City Art and Mural Program started in 2009. Today, there are over 200 art installations throughout the city, including murals, mosaics, and sculptures. And the current operating budget for the program is $25,000. The funds are used for new pieces of art as well as maintaining existing installations. And after the program was moved to the Community Relations Division, we implemented the first preventive maintenance program. In February 2024, a referral was brought to the council proposing the public art development fee to increase the amount of public art in our city, aiming to stimulate local economy, reduce blight, and support crime reduction by design. The City Council unanimously advanced the referral in April of 2024. That same month, the Keep Hayward Clean and Green Commission sent a letter to support the mayor and council on the proposed fee. If implemented, this would be the city's third impact fee. The first was adopted in 2019, which is the park impact fee, and the second was in 2022, which is the traffic impact fee. Now I'd like to highlight some key discussion points that the council should consider before proceeding with the next steps in implementing a new fee. First, to establish a development impact fee, the Mitigation Fee Act requires a nexus study to be conducted, which will provide a precise percentage recommendation tailored to the needs of our community. We checked with the City Attorney's Office, and they confirmed that a public art impact fee is subject to the Mitigation Fee Act, so a nexus study will be necessary to proceed with this item. For both fees previously implemented by the city, we contracted with outside consultants to conduct the necessary nexus studies. And those contracts range from $50,000 to $70,000. To understand the potential fee structure, staff analyzed public art programs and development fees throughout the Bay Area. Of the 32 cities we examined, 17 had public art development fee and program. However, these structures varied from one another. In attachment 2 that you'll see is you'll find the list of Bay Area art fees throughout the communities. To illustrate what a fee could generate for the program, staff utilized a model featuring a 1% fee based on construction evaluation for projects. For example, if a 1% art impact fee had been applied to the development that took place in fiscal year 2024 and were subject to the park impact fee, it would have generated over $314,000. However, the value can vary from year to year, depending on the economy and the number of developments in the pipeline for the city. Staff also recommends the creation of a public art master plan. By establishing these standards, we can ensure that all future art projects meet the city's criteria and accurately reflect the community's values. Lastly, we want to share our opportunity for growth. With the added fee for the art and mural program, staff anticipate an expansion of the program's scope. Our current model requires a half full-time employee to manage the program, which includes maintenance, project selection, funding allocation, and future planning. However, since the addition of the fee is likely to grow the program, one additional dedicated full-time staff member may be necessary. Unfortunately, we currently do not have a dedicated staff member to fill this role. Over the past 2 fiscal years, we've utilized temporary or seasonal administrative clerk to assist with some of these tasks. An ideal scenario would be for the Public Art Fund to support a full-time staff member. Essentially, the program would cover the management costs with no impact to the general fund. However, many of the variables can affect the annual amount generated from the fee, so this could be challenging. Lastly, next steps. So, pending feedback from tonight's work session, staff will return in August after the council's recess with a consent item to allocate funds for next steps. The estimated request will be $100,000. These funds will cover the nexus study and the cost of temporary staff needed to complete the public art master plan. Once funding is secured, we will issue a request for proposal for a contractor to conduct the nexus study, which is expected to take roughly 6 to 9 months to complete. At the same time, staff will develop a public art master plan internally using our current community media relations staff, along with assistance from either interns or temporary help, depending on the overall scope of the program based on feedback from City Council. Once the nexus study is complete, staff will return to the council with the finalized product art master plan, nexus study, and recommendations for approval and implementation. Lastly, council may request the staff to delay this item until a later date when additional funding and/or full-time staffing may be available. That actually concludes my presentation. At this work session, I would appreciate the opportunity to begin a conversation to gather feedback for next steps.
Thank you. This is a work session, and so what I want to do first is I want to open this up for public comment. And I don't have any cards, and I don't see anyone online, so I will close public comment, and I will come back up here to the dais, and Councilmember Zermeño.
Mayor, thank you, and Zach, thank you very much for a good presentation. I love art, and as an early proponent of murals back in 1994, this is something that I really support, so please go forward with it as far as I am concerned. One question, question more than anything. We had some murals on our cinema place on Foothill. Can we they were taken down. Can we replace them? What happened to them? There were cinema murals.
So we currently have a few murals that are on Cinema Place. Those are still up there. In fact, those are part of last year when our division took over the art mural program. We implemented our first restoration processes. So we actually worked with the artists to redo the art and to basically touch them up. One of our big challenges is we have over 200 pieces. We have some great art throughout the city, but unfortunately we put it up, but we haven't been maintaining them.
Yeah,
so our goal is to go back and start doing maintenance.
Right. These were large movie posters on Foothill, on the walls facing Foothill, and they're missing. So
let me check into that for you.
I'd love to see them back.
Of course.
So thank you. Thanks again for a good program, and let's do this.
Sounds good.
Too bad it's going to take us till August 26th. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you. Thank you to staff and Mr. Abadi for bringing this item forward. I've been looking forward to it. Wanted to also acknowledge all the efforts that the other departments have given for this presentation, because I know it was a joint effort. Wanted to ask just a question about interim plans. I know we're all very sensitive about the budget, so I just wanted to know, have staff talked about interim planning for what we can do in public art in terms of incorporating this into some of the CIP projects? I know that we've been seeing some of that art happen organically with crosswalks and utility boxes. Want to see if that's something that we can implement now as we talk about doing this Nexus study.
Yeah, so the current funding, the $25,000 that we have, it currently covers a lot of those projects, especially like the murals on the utility boxes.
Mm-hmm.
We will continue that project. That is going on right now because based on the funding that we have. This is for future art pieces. And then as the Nexus study is conducted, then it will come back not only by the percentage of what we will be acting as a fee, but they'll also come with recommendations whether if there's in lieu fees for example, if a developer instead want to do their own art, things of that nature, that will be part of the Nexus study. Also, separate from the Nexus study, the actual art master plan that we'll be doing, that will give us a chance to actually build out the structure of what we want those art pieces to look like. Right now, I mean, we've done a great job putting art in the city, but there is no guidelines. It's been staff that has decided this is wonderful, things of that nature. Now it's better for us to actually have a plan that we can actually go move forward to say this is what our standards are.
Okay, and then I'm interested in seeing in that study if there's potential for us to use folks that are already in-house and bodies that we already have formed. So if we can leverage the Economic Development Department, if we can leverage the Economic Development Committee, invite Hayward Arts Council to be part of a review, if that's something that can also be something that can be discussed if we were to do a study.
Sure, let me clarify. So there's two simultaneous projects going on, or items going on. One is a Nexus study. That was one that we do have to go outside. We don't have the internal capacity or the expertise to do that, unfortunately, and that's the big ticket price.
Okay.
Internally, as for the art master plan, that will be done internally to try to save funds.
Okay.
So we'll be utilizing staff that we currently have for that.
Okay, so we can save funds doing
Yeah,
that
and
internally.
unfortunately, the amount that we are proposing to come back to ask for, that will cover for the Nexus plan, which is something that we don't have the capacity internally. And historically, the other two fees that we've had within the city, we also had to go out for contractors for that as well, because once again, we don't have the internal capacity or the expertise to do that. It's a pretty extensive project, unfortunately.
Okay. And then I would say that I am definitely for doing the Nexus study, doing this interim planning, as well as doing anything we can in-house in order to reduce the amounts. I would say also in the Nexus study, I think what we will find is that developers like predictability. So the sooner they know, the sooner they can be on board. But we can also inform developers this is something that council likes to see for their projects now. So is that something that we can inform the Economic Development Committee or our planning department just to let them know these are some things that we would like to see in features for future projects?
Yes, that is something we can let them know. And also, going back to the Nexus study, part of the element is actually going out to not only the community, but also development community, because they are going to be impacted. So that's part of the process as well.
Okay. In general, I would say yes, I am for this item. I know this is a ticket that we'll have to pay for, but I do think it helps support our goals and invest in infrastructure, grow the economy, as well as quality of life, and just reminder that we did approve this unanimously for us to review this, so thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank Councilmember Andrews for bringing this forward. And I think one thing that the report, I wish the slides had touched on, and I know you had a lot of things to think about, was, just what public art does to stimulate the economy, what it does to, and I think this is why Councilmember Andrews always, brings this up, is what it does to sort of create a buzz in your neighborhood. I mean, I'm thinking like the heart sculptures in San Francisco, people go there specifically to take selfies in front of them. And I think it's not necessarily I think we're talking about, I think the staff report says 50,000 or something for the Nexus study, but what it would do to help stimulate certain spaces in our community, I think, is the benefit from this, that's what we're looking to do, is stimulate the economy. So I think, and I bring that up because I'm really aware of our budget constraints. We're about to have that discussion tonight. I know this is not a good time to be asking for funds to do such a thing, but I am interested in moving forward and see what that would really take, because, and also, well, I also wanted to ask, so we have the other two fees, the parks fee and the traffic impact fee. On the list of all the cities that also have an art fee, do they also have those fees as well in those communities?
We actually only looked at the aspect of art fees. We didn't compare other fees that those cities have. And we can go back and take a look at that for you, but right now we were only focusing on cities that actually had an art impact fee and then what they looked like for them.
Okay, and I was just curious because, you said there in the report it says, but don't forget we also have these other fees. And so I was just curious, is that a norm anyway? I mean, to Councilmember Andrews' point about developers just understanding what the impact is. So I just wanted to make sure we're not sort of adding something extra. And then I was also wondering, we have this mural program. If we added this fee and then, didn't add staff, because, I'm really aware of us, not having the budget necessarily to be adding staff to create this, could the fee in the beginning just go to the mural budget program until we can, we're in a better budget position, actually hire staff to come up with a more robust master plan?
Yes, and also if you look at, we're the timeline right now, best case scenario, about 1 year after, so August will come for funds, within a year we'll come back for implementation. There's gonna be other time for us to actually take them, so we're taking about 2 years out before we're actually collecting funds. So once we start collecting funds, then we can see how things are going, hopefully the economy will be better, hopefully we will be better. We can come on a separate aspect as staffing side for you.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, obviously I'm really worried about the budget. So, but I am interested in going forward. I think the benefit of this will outweigh what the cost of the Nexus study is in the long run. So I am really interested in moving forward. Not to mention what it does to beautify the city and, help all of us and our communities and our businesses. So I'm interested in moving forward, being very aware of what we can do to minimize cost on this. So thank you very much. Thank you for your work on this. Thank you, Councilmember Andrews.
Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Abadi, for the report, and thank you, Councilmember Andrews, for your leadership in pushing public arts in the city of Hayward. I am supportive of the Nexus study. I think when we are talking about public art, I also want us to be clear that it's not just paintings or murals, but it's also sculptures and potential for landmarks. The addition of the memorial to Japanese internment in Hayward Heritage Plaza is a very significant piece of art and a piece of history for Hayward. And I'd love to see a budget of this size, if we move forward with a fee like this down the line, being able to contribute and support more placemaking objects like the Hearts in San Francisco, like Councilmember Roach mentioned. When we think of landmarks in Hayward, we're kind of stretched thin. We used to have Warren Hall up on the hill before it was demolished. Now we have a water tower and maybe All Saints and the Loop. I don't know. But that one's not the most exciting landmark. So I'm eager for us to think about this as a way for us to create a sense of place and identity in our city, and I think this is a worthwhile investment to figure out how we can do that kind of work sustainably moving forward. For a fee in the future, maybe this is going to come out of the Nexus study, but would there be an in lieu option for developers as well?
Yes, and it all comes back to the Nexus study. We'll actually have a recommendation for that for you.
Okay, understood. And then I think just the selection process around art, as much as I just upheld the virtues of public art, bad public art can also make a city feel not so good to live in. And I really want us to be deliberate around the selection process, or what level of community involvement is part of that selection process when we get to a point where we have funds and we're deciding on which artists to go with. How can that process be maybe competitive among residents so that they have a chance to showcase their art to other community members? Councilmember Andrews mentioned the Hayward Arts Council. There's also a group of younger artists called Art of the Bay. There's a lot of independent artists out in our community too. I don't know if, I may have misread it somewhere, but it mentioned bringing some of the public art before the Economic Development Committee. I just have concerns about that being the deciding body of what art should go into the city. I want to be really thoughtful as we come up with, I don't know if it'd be through our public art master plan, if that's where we would iron out that process.
Yes, so as simultaneously as the Nexus study is going on and we're doing our own master plan, that's where we can then dictate how we want that to look like. So, and it's not just internally. Part of the process of creating that plan is we will be reaching out to community members, staff, all different aspects of the community to develop that plan.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Well, yeah, without belaboring the points, I know we have a hefty agenda tonight. I'm very supportive of moving forward with the Nexus study. Thanks.
Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I generally agree with all of the comments from my colleagues. I do agree with moving forward with the Nexus study. I'm also interested in just sort of understanding, like Councilmember Roche had asked, sort of the compounding fee schedule as it relates to, other cities, just to see sort of, are we, kind of in line with other impact fees and the amount of impact fees that other cities have. And then, I would also be interested in just maybe getting a little bit of feedback from the developer community in terms of what they would think about this, because I really don't see this as being abrasive, especially considering the type of benefit that we would be getting. Like we heard from Councilmember Syrup and Councilmember Andrews, there's just so many benefits that come with public art and moving this forward, making our community feel more alive and more vibrant, makes people want to spend more time here in Hayward, spend more money in Hayward. It kind of really creates this live, work, play environment that I think we're all very much passionate about seeing in Hayward. So I do support moving forward with the Nexus study, and I also want to thank Councilmember Andrews for her leadership on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to support this because if I don't, I'm sitting next to Councilmember Andrews and she'll unplug my iPad. But absolutely, Councilmember Andrews has certainly kept us reminded about public art, that public art generates economic development for sure, and on occasion, and I mean it's very frequent on the news on any given evening, you'll hear. Whether it's good controversy or bad controversy or whatever controversy about, a statue in San Francisco, a statue in San Leandro. But what happens when you go and look at the statue? You go grab something to eat. And so all of that, I think, generates a lot of enthusiasm for any city. So I certainly support this. And I wanted, again, join in the chorus of all of the congratulatory comments for Councilmember Andrews for really making this front and center here on the council. So thank you very much. And since there are no further questions, I will close this item, move on to our public hearing, which is item number 16, which is the utility rate adjustments. Adopt a resolution amending the master fee schedule, approving the proposed fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 water and recycled rates and facility fees, and finding the actions are exempt from CEQA review. And I believe this will come to us by way of our Public Works Director, Alex Zamiri, but I also believe he has one of his engineers
colleagues
sitting next
here.
to him.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you mentioned, we are here to present to you the proposed water rates, recycled water rates, and connection fees. My colleague here, Trang Nguyen, has done a cost of service study, has prepared, done the research and prepared the staff report, has put together a PowerPoint presentation, and she's going to go ahead and present, and I'm going to sit back and relax. Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Great, thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone. My name is Trang Nguyen, Management Analyst with the Public Works and Utilities Department. First, I would like to go over the water rate that pays for Hayward's water supply. It comprises of a fixed service fee and the charge for water use. There are three main financial drivers affecting water rates. First is the cost of purchasing water from SFPUC, which is the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. 100% of Hayward's water supply is from SFPUC's Hetchy system, and approximately 2/3 of the revenue goes to this cost. SFPUC increased their rates by 15.9% in fiscal year 23, 9.7% in fiscal year 24, 8.8% in fiscal year 25, and adopted an increase of 2.3% in fiscal year 26. Over the past several years, Hayward has used some of its reserves to minimize the impacts of rising water rates from SFPUC on local residents and businesses. While SFPUC is implementing a 2.3% effective July 1st, 2025, Hayward is proposing a 6% increase to replenish some reserves, another key financial driver that were previously used. Even with a 6% increase, Hayward anticipates drawing from water fund reserves in the next 2 fiscal years. Lastly, the water rate increase will enable Hayward to update aging infrastructure through the Capital Replacement Fund. An example is the goal of replacing 2 miles of water pipelines annually to maintain system reliability and service quality. For the fixed water service fee, staff is proposing a 6% increase in fiscal year 26 and 6% in fiscal year 27. The current bi-monthly fee for a 5/8-inch meter, which is typical of most homes, is $39 every 2 months, or $19.50 per month. With the proposed increase, a single-family resident with a 5/8-inch meter will see an increase of $1.17 per month in fiscal year 26, and an additional $1.24 per month in fiscal year 27. Hayward is one of the few agencies that offers a 65% discount to low-income residents on their water service charge. An overwhelming majority of our low-income customers are on a 5/8-inch meter, and they currently pay just $6.83 per month. They will see an increase of 41 cents per month in the first year and an additional 44 cents per month in the second year. Customers can contact Hayward to complete a low-income discount application to see if they qualify. For the water consumption rate, staff is recommending a 6% increase in fiscal year 26 and 6% increase in fiscal year 27. With the proposed increase, a single-family residential customer in Hayward using an average of 12 CCF per billing period, or 150 gallons per day, will see an increase of $4.09 per month in the first year and an additional $4.34 per month in the second year. When comparing to local agencies who do not purchase the same percentage of their water supply from SFPUC's expensive water like Hayward, we are not comparing apples to apples. For example, Alameda County Water District purchases a small fraction of SFPUC water and have other resources such as groundwater and state water, which is why their rates are somewhat lower in comparison. As you can see here, when we compare Hayward to agencies who also purchase the majority of SFPUC water, the city's rates are almost the lowest for single-family residential and the lowest rate for commercial customers such as restaurants. Apart from Mountain View, the cities of Hayward, Redwood City, and Palo Alto purchases 100% of their water supply from SFPUC. Mountain View purchases 87% of their water from SFPUC and the remaining from the Water District and local groundwater. If Mountain View were to purchase 100% of their water supply from SFPUC, its water rate would likely be higher than the rates currently proposed by the City of Hayward. So how do these rates affect residents' day-to-day activities? With the proposed rates, one load of laundry in a machine with average efficiency using approximately 15 gallons of water will cost 24 cents. Taking an 8-minute shower will cost 19 cents. Flushing the toilet will cost 2 cents. And 1 gallon of Hayward's high-quality drinking water is going to cost less than 2 cents. By comparison, purchasing 1 gallon of water from the store can cost up to 100 times more. Similar to water rates, recycled water rates comprises of the fixed service fee and the charge for recycled water use. For the recycled water's fixed service fee, staff is proposing an increase of 6% in fiscal year 26 and another 6% in fiscal year 27 to remain the same as the water service fee for drinking water. For recycled water consumption rates, staff is proposing to modify the current recycled water single-tier rate into a 2-tier rate structure to make it consistent with the current rate structure for using drinking water for irrigation. When recycled water delivery started a few years ago, to encourage customer participation and reduce the use of drinking water, the city heavily discounted the recycled water rates compared with the use of drinking water for irrigation. The proposed rate reduces the discount and brings it to an average of 25% below the comparable drinking water for irrigation. As you can see on the graph, Hayward's proposed discount is still substantial and is in the mid-range of other agencies. Now transitioning to water and recycled water facilities fee, which is a one-time charge when a new development connects to the water and recycled water system. Staff is recommending increasing the water and recycled water facilities fees by 10% in fiscal year 26 and another 10% in fiscal year 27. As shown here, Hayward's proposed water facilities fee is well below neighboring agencies. In terms of public outreach, on April 18, approximately 45,000 notices of the proposed water rate adjustments and approximately 110 of the proposed recycled water rate adjustments were distributed to property owners, bill payers, and tenants. Although not legally required, notices were sent to bill payers and tenants to inform them of the proposed water and recycled water rate increases. By law, City Council cannot adopt the rates if we receive at least 18,000 protest letters related to water and 24 protest letters related to recycled water. We received a total of 20 protest letters related to water, 19 by the legal deadline of June 2nd, and no protest letters received for recycled water. Staff responded to 6 letters indicating that the city is out of compliance with Proposition 218, and to 4 letters citing financial hardship or fixed income. Included with the response to those who are on fixed income or express financial burden, the notice included a copy of the low-income discount application and information regarding water conservation resources. In addition, the proposed rates were published twice in the Daily Review. For the proposed facilities fees, it is not subject to Prop 218, but as a courtesy, staff sent a notice to developers, Building Industry Association of the Bay Area, and the Chamber of Commerce to notify them of the proposed facilities fees and of the public hearing. Staff have also presented the proposed facilities fees and rates at a joint meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, Government Relations Council, and Hayward Chamber of Commerce. For the public hearing tonight, we will answer City Council's questions, then open public hearing and public comments, followed by Council's discussion and action. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council adopts a resolution amending the master fee schedule and approving the proposed water and recycled water rates and facilities fees and finding the action is exempt from SEQA review. If approved, the new rates will be effective annually October 1st, 2025 and October 1st, 2026, and the facilities fees will be effective September 1st, 2025 and September 1st, 2026. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Before I go to public comment, I would like to start up here on the dais and see if there are any questions. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this report. Your presentation was great, and it hit on so many of the questions that I had. Just out of curiosity, I know that we're buying all of our water from San Francisco PUC, but you had explained that there were other agencies that had a mix of maybe groundwater and other things that got their prices a little bit lower. Can you maybe explain why Hayward hasn't taken that approach and sort of what kind of higher quality we're receiving through the current water agreements that we have in place?
So, may I take that? So basically, we purchase, as you mentioned, 100% of our water from the HHE, SFPUC HHE system. That water is one of the highest quality waters in the country. That is why we have so many water bottling plants in Hayward. Pepsi bottles Aquafina, Shasta bottles LaCroix, and also Bubbly, and sell it all over California and sometimes over the West Coast. The water quality is exceptional. Some agencies use well water. As you know, there are some concerns recently related to use of well water and whether or not there exists some contamination. We do not have to worry about that. We pay a little bit more, but we receive water that is of highest quality.
Thank you so much. That's great to hear. Then when we look at our pricing, also relative to other cities, how are we able to keep our prices a little bit more affordable than, perhaps neighboring cities?
We are just more efficient in our operation. It is true. It is true.
Good.
We run this like a business. We look at all of our expenses. We make sure that we don't do something that creates an expense that is unnecessary. As you saw on the chart, there is another agency, I'm not going to name them, that they purchase 100% of their water from HHE just like us and distribute it to their customers. Their rates are 20% higher than us, and they have just implemented a 10% increase every year for 5 years. Wow. And just after they did that, they said, oh, by the way, San Francisco increased their rates by 2.3%. We are going to pass that through on top of the 10%. Our increase is 6%, effective October 1. So in effect, the customers for the year pay 4.5% more because it's over 9 months as opposed to 12.
Yeah, it's very thoughtful, and I appreciate your leadership in this space. I think everyone in the community benefits from it, and I also appreciate the community-centered view of the presentation to really talk about what does this mean to the average resident in Hayward on a monthly basis. So that was also very helpful. So again, thank you so much for taking these questions, and thank you for a great presentation.
Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you for the presentation. Just had a couple questions. I know we received some protest letters, but wanted to ensure if we were getting back to them regarding hardships, that we received those letters for the Prop 218.
So yes, anyone who included information regarding whether they're having financial hardship or financial burden, we do send them a response prior to this public hearing tonight to let them know of the different programs that we have for water conservation and also the low income discount information.
Okay, and then to Councilmember Bonilla's question regarding the water we have, Director Mary, can you talk about some of the infrastructure we would need to have in place if we didn't have this type of agreement with SFPUC and all the other facilities that it would take in order to clean water if we were to have a lower quality of water?
Yeah, so we would be using, in part, we would be using well water, like some of the agencies are. And if we were unfortunate and had PFAS in our water, forever chemicals in our water, removing those chemicals are extremely difficult. So either we'll have to put up with some of those chemicals in our water or spend a whole lot of money removing those chemicals. Some of the agencies that use well water have decided to reduce the amount of well water and purchase more like state water to compensate.
So similar to how we see the costs for the wastewater, we would see that in our water
Very
delivery
good
as well.
comparison, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
And just out of curiosity, how long have we been receiving water from particularly the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir?
So we started using that water in early 1940s, and in early mid 1950s, we decided to go to 100% Hetch Hetchy. So the wells that we had at that time became emergency wells and standby, and we have never used well water since mid 1950s.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that. Okay, I don't have any more questions up here. Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, just to follow up on, thank you, Councilmember Bonilla, you asked the questions, but just because it's a, it's a community meeting and a public meeting, and it was in the staff report, but if you could just be clear about when we're passing through the fees that we pay for water for SFPUC, we're not, I mean, that's why we're going into our reserves, right? We're not passing on 100% of that fee, so we're still subsidizing water for the community. Is that right?
We are using $6 million of our reserves this year, $4 million next year, in order not to spike our rates. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear so that they would understand that we're doing what we can to minimize the fees that we're charging customers by trying to compensate as much as we can on the city side.
That is absolutely the case, yes.
Okay, all right, good, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to move to public comment, and we have one public comment, one public comment online, and it is Zoom user.
Hi, I'm sorry. I don't know if I misunderstood. Are public comments allowed during the work sessions?
Yes. Well, this is a public hearing. So is your public comment about the water?
Public art impact fee. Are we allowed to comment on that you guys just discussed prior to the water issue?
I think I've already did public comment, and
my hand was raised and no one called me.
I didn't see a hand that was raised. If I will, if you can hang on to the end of the meeting, I will reopen public comment, and I can have you register your public comment for that.
And how do I register it? My hand was raised. Do I just keep my hand raised?
Your hand is raised right now, but this is the wrong agenda item. And I will call upon you at the end of the meeting when we conclude.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so no public comment on this item. I will come back to council, and I will entertain a motion.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes, seconded by Councilmember Andrews. And I don't see any other questions. Madam City Clerk, we can take the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, if you could please refresh your iPads. I'll go ahead and start the vote.
And the item passes unanimously with seven votes. Thank you. Our next item is item number 17. This is PH 25-031, fiscal year 2025-26 budget and CIP public hearing and adoption. Public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 operating budgets for the city of Hayward, Hayward Redevelopment Successor Agency, and the Hayward Housing Authority, and fiscal year 2025-26 capital investment program budget, and the adoption of the fiscal year 2025-26 operating budgets and appropriations for fiscal year 2025-26, and the adoption of the fiscal year 25-26 capital improvement program budget and appropriations for fiscal year 2025-26, and the adoption of the Hayward Redevelopment Successor Agency budget and the adoption of the Hayward Housing Authority budget. And this report is going to come to us by way of our interim finance director, Director Ettman, but I believe our acting city manager, Mr. Lawson, will kick this off.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And before turning it over to Interim Finance Director Ettman, just a few brief comments. Since the Council saw the budget in the work session on May 13th, a lot of work has gone into the revised budget by the executive team who are here in the chamber. What was identified on May 13th was a projected general fund deficit of $12.6 million. And to be clear, tonight's presentation is really going to focus on the general fund portion of the budget. Even though there are a series of actions to be taken, it's the general fund that's really the focus here tonight. But after the work session on May 13th, as we conducted additional analysis, the deficit went from 12.6 to 16.1. So the work that the council sees tonight is finding $7.2 million to bring the deficit that's anticipated back to about 8.9. And that's going to be the focus of the recommendation. So the work that's gone into going from 16.1 to 8.9 is really illustrative of the teamwork in the executive team. The way the team has gone about looking at their departmental budgets and bringing a set of recommendations that I think reflects the true spirit of collaboration among all of the partners in the executive team. So with that, Mayor and Council, I'm going to turn it over to Interim Finance Director Ettman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I am Sharif Ettman, your Interim Director of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Lawson, for the introduction, our acting city manager. Tonight, before you have a recommendation to conduct a public hearing in accordance with the city's charter, which is section 1202. That's the first recommendation. The second recommendation is that the council adopts resolutions approving the 2025-26 operating and CIP budgets according with the city charter. And I do have an amendment or a suggested amendment to one of the resolutions regarding the budget as we move forward. This basically talks about the budget timeline. How did we get here? Where we have been? We've had multiple discussions on the budget, not only here in council chambers, but also with our exec team and with staff. And as you know, we actually start the budget process back in January. I came on board in March. And so the discussion of the 25-26 budget process begins. We had multiple discussions with CBFC. We had department review meetings with the city manager. We did a draft presentation to the city manager, and then we also then put together our documents. The structural deficit, as acting city manager Lawson discussed, grew from 12.6 million to actually $16 million as we were moving forward. And as you know, we are focusing on the general fund. That's what's under council's control as far as discretionary spending. And that's what we're taking a look at tonight, is the general fund portion of the budget. We had several work sessions. As you know, we had budget work sessions 1 and 2. There was a CIP presentation as well. And we went to CBFC regarding additional feedback. And one of the additional feedbacks that we received from CBFC was to find a way to lower next year's reliance on the reserves from 12.6 to a lower number. And that's what today reflects as well. This month in June, we had multiple executive leadership meetings, and we came up with several recommendations to reduce that number of the 12.6 or the $16.1 million projected deficit down to about $8.9 million. If you recall, Council, you do have a budget book. The budget book was printed and posted. That budget book had a budget message from the prior city manager. And so what we did was we're making amendments to the budget book. We are not changing the budget book given the timing because we were still working on the budget up to last week. Due to the time crunch, what we have is you have an existing budget book, and what we did was we have an amendment for you, and you also have an amended budget message. So Acting City Manager Lawson now has an updated city manager's message, if you will, budget message, and then you have amendments. And so part of the process moving forward is that you would have an amendment tonight for your 25-26 budget. In the fall revision, you could have an amendment number 2 or multiple amendments depending on how that discussion goes. And then in your mid-year revise would be an amendment 3, if you will. So we'd have budget amendments throughout the year, making changes to the existing budget book. So I just want to talk about process as we move forward. As you recall, we talked about the expenditure summary for the city of Hayward, and if you look at the general fund is the $232 million. We have Measure C and special revenue funds, which we've talked about in the past. You have debt service, enterprise funds, and ISF, which is your internal service funds. And so our focus, staff, and our focus in the council for tonight is looking at the general fund overall budget of $232 million. We also have other agency funds, as you can see below. And when we talk about our overall city operating budget, we are a $445 million agency, if you will, all in, nearly $500 million. And the total CIP budget is around $160 million. I will come back to these 2 slides as I think we have a better slide to show where we are as far as the proposed budget and the adopted budget from prior year. As you recall, we've talked about the general fund revenue by source, and when we came to you last, this represents the last time we came to council and talking about the general fund revenue, and that represents about $219 million for next fiscal year. You can see by far the 2 biggest pieces of the pie are property tax and sales tax. That's what really drives the organization, and so as property tax continues to increase or flatten, that has an impact on the overall budget, and also your sales tax. Sales tax is strong in Hayward. As you recall, it's been increasing year over year. However, we do have the reduction from the BART cars that we mentioned in the past. So those are your 2 biggest drivers. You can then see your UUT tax, you have your transfer tax and franchise fees and other charges. But at the end of the day, it's property tax and sales tax that really drives the city's revenue. In contrast, if you take a look, we have $219 million in expected revenue, and then we were projecting $232 million in expenses. And you've heard us mention many times before that salaries and benefits makes up about 80% of our budget. And so at the end of the day, when you're trying to make significant structural changes, you really do need to make a structural change in the salary and benefit side. As you can see from the supplies and services, the smaller circle there, that makes up 5.2%. And we've really scrubbed that as much as we could to be able to come up with reductions on the supply and services side. At the end of the day, you've heard me mention, you've heard executive team and City Manager Lawson and others talk about that in order to make some significant changes, it's really in the services that we provide to the community. And with those services, obviously, come staff. And so at the end of the day, when it comes to the fall revise, when we talk about meeting with our labor partners and the different pieces, whether it's concessions or attrition or a change in the way we provide services, the bulk of our budget obviously comes from that salary and benefit piece, and that's where we're going to have ongoing discussions to really have a structural change in our budget to really bring down our expenses moving forward. There's no magic bullet in this. You can't just revenue yourself out of this. You can't just expense your way out of this. It's really looking at the services that we provide to the community and then the staffing that's required to get there. And so this really is the slide that captures all of the work that's been done in the past month, and this was in collaboration with all of the exec team members, with many other staff members to get us to this point. And what we're proposing for tonight is a total savings of about $7.2 million in our reliance on the general fund reserve for next year. And so if you look at the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that the projected deficit was $16.1 million. Through these actions that are noted here, we would have a savings of $7.2 million. So the updated projected deficit for next fiscal year would be about $8.9 million. And that's the addendum that we would add would be this slide. And so you can see there's different reductions in different transfers and different movements within the general fund, such as the IT software, a reduction in our fleet capital budget transfer, reduction in our general liability insurance that comes from our general fund, a reduction in our economic development fund, and you can see some of the other pieces. There are also additional vacancies through vacancy management. Obviously, as positions become available, we are going to be aggressively looking at each position and taking a look at the needs for the organization on whether they need to be filled or not. And so as through that vacancy management, there will be additional savings that will be achieved. Another major point was the transfer of Route 238 property funds. There's been discussion in the past regarding Route 238, the sale of properties through the Caltrans piece. We do have about $6 or $7 million in that fund. However, there is an ongoing maintenance every year that we need to make sure that we keep an eye on. And so there's ongoing maintenance that must be taken from this fund, so we're not taking anywhere near the total amount to make sure that we have enough money in that fund for the next 5 fiscal years. So this is the adoption addendum, if you will, that we're recommending for tonight. One important note for this is that you can see that almost all of these are one-time measures. These are not ongoing measures. And so part of the discussion of having the revise for tonight was then having the fall revise in order to have time to go back to our labor partners, in order to have time to have thoughtful discussions regarding our services that we provide, and we needed more time to do that, and we weren't able to do that in the couple weeks that we had in these last round of meetings, if you will. And so in order to come up with long-term sustainable savings for the organization, it really needs to take a look at the services we provide, the salaries and benefits behind that, and all those different pieces, and that would happen in the fall. And so we do recognize that these are one-time savings. At the same time, it does significantly reduce our reliance on the reserve immediately as we move forward. This is a recap of the 25-26 CIP. As you know, you approve a 5-year CIP. This is the estimated expenditures for next fiscal year that has been discussed, and you've heard presentations in regard to the CIP moving forward. And so that wraps up my portion of the presentation. We can certainly have council questions, and then we have a public hearing and a discussion and a motion, and I do have a suggested amendment to the resolution as we move forward.
Thank you. Thank you. I will start up here with Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you very much for this presentation. I know we've seen this budget for quite some time, and we've been working on it. And I also want to say thank you to the entire executive team for all of the work that you guys have done to really address this budget deficit in a way that, smart and in a way that protects the core services of our city. The question that I did have, though, is how did we go from a $12.6 million to a $16 million deficit between the last time we had this discussion?
Thank you, Councilmember Bonilla. And so that was the result of the $3.5 million discussion regarding fire. And so there was an original discussion that was had regarding a reduction in overtime within the fire department of $3.5 million. However, that discussion was premature, and so we reversed that $3.5 million out. So if you 12.6 million plus 3.5 million gets you to that $16 million number.
So is that discussion going to be ongoing with the fire department in terms of how we're going to get there? Because I was under the impression that there was going to be some sort of reduction, and I'm not sure if the fire chief is here to speak to that, but I was just sort of wondering how that got reversed so quickly.
Yes. There will need to be ongoing conversations with all of our labor partners, all of our bargaining groups, including fire.
Okay. And then what was the rationale for parking the money from the 238 parcels in a separate account? And then I guess what's the rationale to now bring that money into the general fund? Because I thought that we had purposely parked it in a separate account for a reason, and I'm just maybe wondering if you can provide some insight into what that reasoning was.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Bonilla, at the end of the day, it's all general fund, and it's all reserves, and it's all under your discretion. However, for accounting purposes, obviously we want to track different funds for different pieces. So that money sits in a different fund, but at the end of the day, it's under your discretion. So you can talk about your reserves being $30 million plus, the $7 million that's in there. However, for differentiating the discussion. It sits in its own different fund. It's been sitting there for quite some time, and so part of the discussion was to use that money now, since there are some available, and not have to rely on the actual body of the general fund reserves, which are when you're trying to achieve the 20% reduction or 20% reserve level. So at the end of the day, it's the same money, you're just accounting for it in a different spot.
Okay, thank you for that. And then, so for the $10 million budget reduction that, you know, we're going to have to aim towards, right? About $9 million is still what we have left. How many, just out of curiosity, how many open positions do we currently have in the city?
We currently have around 70 open positions in general fund. So not speaking towards the other pieces, but in general fund, it's about 70 positions,
and then,
which is around 10%.
10%, got it. So about 70 positions, I'm just wondering, so is it about 50 positions is around the $10 million mark?
Correct. That'd be safe to say. If you, about an average of 200,000 with benefits, salaries and benefits, it's about 50 positions.
Got it. So with a staffing level of about 990 roughly, you know, from your experience, is that typical for a city our size and, you know, our scale, or is that high or low just in comparison to what you know about cities our size and budget and staffing levels?
I think we're in line with where we need to be. The issue is each city is different on how you pay, what you pay, the salary amount, right, the overtime, those different pieces. And as we discussed before, Councilmember Bonilla, it's clear that we've overextended ourselves a little bit in the fact that the current revenue that we bring in does not support the 700 budgeted positions, right? And so through attrition, through changes, through some of the different levels, we need to bring that level down.
That makes sense. And then we'll have two more kind of bites at closing this budget gap before the year is over. So we're going to kind of come back for a fall revise, which will be around September-ish, and then mid-year is going to be, what, around December, January-ish, and then, you know, so we'll have two more opportunities to kind of see how creative we can be in addressing this $9 million.
Fall revise is probably going to be late October. Is that about right? Mid-year?
Yeah, we're shooting for late October, the last meeting in October, first meeting in November for fall revise. Given the fact that as you push backwards, Councilmember, if you say September, then it's due August, which is due now, right? Yeah. And so we're shooting for an October fall revise, and then the mid-year revision usually happens last meeting in February, first meeting in March, because you have to close out January in order to get your mid-year numbers.
Got it. All right, those are all of my questions. Thank you.
And to that point as well, it's not just those two bites. This will be ongoing, where we can continue to make addendum and changes as we move forward too.
Got it. Because I mean, I would almost want to see like a thermometer of like this, you know, or a barometer of like this $9 million. And like every month we talk about this in budget, we just see how that's chipping away, where it's chipping away. I want to see us create a reward system for departments that are actually contributing to this, so that we can recognize the departments that are coming to the table and that are doing the right thing. And I think we just need to have a lot of transparency in terms of how we are coming together as a city to make the tough decisions to close this budget deficit. Because if we don't do it now, this is only going to continue to compound in future years, and then we're going to be in a position where we don't have reserves to even have this discussion with. So I'm very much interested in very closely tracking, as closely as we can, what we are doing to close this $9 million, like month by month, if we could see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, I just want to ask for Mayor privilege to introduce my Urban League Fellow because of this item. So I just want to introduce my Urban League Fellow, Israel Mendez. He is very interested in this particular item, so I just want to make sure that he's acknowledged now. He is a Chabot student as well as a youth commissioner. So thank you for attending the meeting as well and staying this whole time. So I just want to give you kudos on that. I did have a question about the UUT, the utility user tax, and wanted to see how that will impact this budget before the fall revise, or will it happen after the fall revise in terms of updates to that?
As far as UUT, there won't be any impact in the fall revise. That's something that'll be a multi-year approach, and so we're looking at any impacts to the UUT probably for next fiscal year. And definitely 2 fiscal years out when things are completely up and running.
Okay.
But for 25, 26, there'll be minimal impact to UUT.
Okay, great. So, so future modeling, it will show it, okay.
Correct.
And then I wanted to also know about economic development. I know that it was a transfer fund. Can we explain a little bit what that transfer looks like of the 250? And is there something we can revisit in the fall revise?
Yeah, so the Economic Development Fund has a certain level of fund that's sort of set aside for economic development, and what we're doing is we're just reducing the amount that we're transferring from general fund to spend this year, and so that'll be something that'll be looked at on an ongoing basis to see what funds are needed in that department, and to be able to identify those and move those forward. So that can certainly change over time.
Okay. And is there, yes, you want to say something?
Yes, Councilmember. We've tried to align the budget and ensure that council priorities are represented in the way that we've tried to sort of squeeze additional funds administratively to hit that $8 or $9 million mark. But we also recognize the need to be flexible as the year rolls out. If opportunities present around economic development, we can make an adjustment to accommodate that.
Okay. And do you know what programs will be impacted in this interim? Does anyone want to speak to?
Programs, Councilmember, in regards to the budget reductions?
Yes.
Right now, no program impact.
No program, economic
Correct.
development, no program of impact?
Paul, if you would, I can call on Paul to comment on that as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Paul Nguyen, Chief Economic Development Officer with the city. I understand the question is of the proposed $250,000 reduction in our division's budget, what programs would be eliminated? I would say the majority of the ones that you have seen through the Economic Development Committee meetings over the last 3 years, from our standard grant and loans program for business incentives to attract businesses, our facade improvement programs, our #Hayward programs, our Education City related programming, the reduction of that fund from our normal allocation of $350,000 a year, reducing it by $250. That's a 71% reduction in that fee, in that fund alone. So the majority of the outward-facing new programs that we were able to fund, develop, launch, and fund over the last 3-4 years using the one-time ARPA funds, that ED fund is used to try to continue some of those funds, some of those projects.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm sure that the Economic Development Department, and if there's any other departments that can help in terms of that fall revise, we'll be looking at that fund in particular, because that is a very important area that I would like to see continue grow, not reduce. Okay, those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Roach.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the entire staff for buckling down on this. I know this wasn't easy, and looking at the list of addendums, I'm sure there's a ton of heartburn in there. So thank you for everything you're doing and will continue to do to work on that. And I wanted to be clear that right, we're gonna, when we adopt the budget tonight, first of all, are we adopting 12.6% of deficit or 8.9%? Because the resolution still says 12.9. 8.9, okay. So that includes the addendum if we approve that tonight.
Correct.
Okay. And then, I guess the other thing I wanted to acknowledge was, we all got here because we placed a value on our city employees and making sure people were paid correctly and, matching neighboring cities and keeping up with the cost of living. So I know how we got here and how difficult this is going to be for us to start reeling that in and absorbing those changes that we made in value of all of our city employees. And so I know this is hard work to do. We don't want to have to scale back on anything that we already agreed to. So I think these hard decisions are something we're all going to have to swallow. But looking at, wait, let me go back to, my list of the addendum list. I wanted to ask, on the freezing of the positions, so that really is a one-time thing, right? Because that will be the work that will now continue going into the fall, right? About is a blanket freeze still the right thing to do going forward, or do we look at the value? So can you just talk a little bit more about the analysis of positions?
That's part of the discussion that we'll be having between now and the fall revise is whether or not to fill those positions, leave those vacant, freeze them. There are times when agencies actually delete positions. There's different approaches to different pieces, and we haven't had that time to have those discussions. That's why we want to have those discussions with our labor partners.
Okay.
And so we start that next week. We have discussions regarding the budget itself, and then we start the discussions with each labor group talking about how we're going to have these vacancy managements, if you will, moving
Okay.
forward.
Okay, and then I did want to double down on one thing Councilmember Andrews asked about, the economic development transfer, because it sounds like it's just a sort of like, kind of tool of transfer from one fund to the other, but it really is, and maybe Dr. Nguyen, you can also answer that. This is your entire budget, is that right? Or 71% of your budget? Because is this some fund that's something you use in your budget, or is this your department's budget?
Thank you, Councilmember Roche. Yes, it is. It represents 71% of our discretionary programming that we had not historically been using because we were using the one-time ARPA funds.
Okay.
So all 13 economic recovery programs that you've seen in the last 4 years normally would have been funded from this pot in a much slower rate because we had a $2 million allocation to use over the 3-year ARPA arc. And so that's why economic development staff didn't use the general fund because we had that one-time time-limited funds to use.
Okay.
Ultimately, we would eventually, as I described at the December CDC meeting, which kind of wrapped up our ARPA programming and did the economic impact analysis of the cost and benefits and the lessons learned from those programs. We anticipated scaling down the majority of those programs because they were just so large in scale, and our staff only consists of 4 people, one of which is vacant now, but I think, I don't want to set the tone like we would be able to accomplish everything that you saw from our team over the last 4 years with a $350,000 normal general fund allocation that we received every year. We would scale back a lot of those programs, but it is 71% of our grant and loan incentive funds.
And then, because I think, I remember when you made the point about how, but there would be flexibility, and as these programs come up, you'd be able to still fund them. So what does that look like, right? If the Economic Development Department is looking at having to cancel a really popular program or a program that does stimulate the economy or, economic, activity in the city, what does that flexibility look like? Because it feels daunting to take away 71% of a really important budget in the city. Because it seems like, with all these other funds are sort of giving up like software and, we're transferring some other things. It seems to be the only one directly impacting actual programs. That's what I'm, can you, either, Dr. Edmond or acting city manager, if somebody could speak to that.
Heartburn is certainly a good description for the experience that we're going through. But I repeat that economic development produces jobs, revenue, taxes. And that's the flexibility that's required for a program like ED. If opportunities present, flexibility requires bringing funds to that opportunity. And I think that's what, at least as I'm sitting here and probably the interim city manager coming in, along with Paul and the finance department, can find the funds necessary to support the program, to keep it operating, flexible, and attracting new businesses that over the long term that will produce jobs, revenue, property taxes, sales taxes, use taxes, and so on.
Okay, because I guess what I'm concerned about, and I'll see what the rest of my colleagues feel about this, is that I would, when we move to the fall revise, that, because I understand what we're trying to do is come up with, get our deficit down as far as possible to adopt this budget, and I'm really appreciative of all the work that everyone is, and the hard work everyone's going through to get here. But because it is I don't think anyone else is dealing with 71% of their budget in their department, and so I would like to see us move towards restoring that amount going into the fall revise. And however that would look like. I mean, that's what I would like to see, and I guess I'm asking that, and I'll see what the rest of my colleagues feel about that. So thank you for that, and thank you, Director Nguyen, because it does seem like a huge chunk of the work that you do. And I think that's it right now. I mean, we've obviously, seen this a number of times as the slide number 2 summarized. And tonight we are here to adopt a budget. There's not a lot of time for parsing left, except to sort of express our sort of strong desire for how we get to the fall revise. And then the last question I had is, the fall revise is going to be in late October, and is that because we'll have actuals by then from the 24-25 budget?
We will have rough actuals. It'll probably be unaudited because we still need to be audited by our auditors, but we'll have rough estimates of where we are, obviously, because we would anticipate a deficit for this year as well. And then we would also have our 5-year forecast model. We're bringing that back to you in the fall so you can see the forecast model and on where we're at.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Yeah. And that'll be probably first meeting in November.
And I just wanted to clarify, 71% of the Economic Development Department budget is not getting cut. It's just the programming the discretionary part. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Syra.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Interim Director Ettman, and thank you to the entire finance team. I know that this has been months in the making to get to this point, and all the departments for, I was going to say chipping in, but really buckling down to figure out how we can get out of this deficit together because it impacts all of us. Interim Director Ettman, can you speak to the amendment that you want to suggest, just so if there is any public comment, they're able to consider that too?
So the amendment to the resolution is that we did not include the last line of the resolution for the budget should specifically state that you're accepting the adoption addendum, which is attachment 10, and that would bring the deficit from 12.6 million to 8.9 million. So specifically calling out attachment 10 and putting it in the resolution to make it clear that what you're adopting tonight is $8.9 million deficit. You're adopting the addendum as outlined in attachment 10.
Okay, got it, thank you. I think most of my questions were asked earlier, but I do want to expand on a question by Councilmember Bonilla. Could you speak a bit more to the overtime, relationship that we have with fire here? Because from my understanding, the reduction in overtime was coming from the MIHU program being put on pause. And so I'm having a hard time understanding if that program is not being put on pause, or sorry, if that program is being put on pause, how are we not realizing any kind of deficit savings here?
That's a very good point, and very good point of clarification in that when we were first starting our deficit discussion and we were first starting putting together the budget, what we did was we did reduce the overtime related to MIHU in the budget of $1.5 million. So
it's already been
that's already been incorporated, that already has been factored into, that the MIHU program would be suspended for the year, and that cost was $1.5 million.
Okay, got it. So that was already baked into the initial budget, the draft budget. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I'll wait to hear what some more of my colleagues have to say, but I serve on the Budget and Finance Committee with some of my colleagues up here. We've talked about this quite a bit. Similar to what Councilmember Roach said, there's not so much we can do tonight. We have a legal obligation to get this budget done, but we need to stick to this and see it through. And I know that our labor partners understand how we've reached this position, and I'm hoping we can all be collaborative in finding our way out of it. Thank you.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Thank you, Acting Director Ettman. I appreciate the thoroughness of your presentation tonight, and I thank city staff for really looking. We understand it's tough. It's a bitter pill to swallow that we have to look at making some cuts, but in the end, being financially responsible is what's going to make it possible for us to continue to move forward. And I have a couple of questions for you, Director Ettman. I almost just promoted you. I think we've had this discussion privately, but I want to bring this out into the light, and that is about overtime generally. That is not exactly a line item in the budget, is it?
We do have a line item for budget for overtime within the organization.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you for that. And are we on track with what we budgeted for overtime, or over, under? Where do we stand relative to that budgeted item?
Two points to that question. For this fiscal year, we're actually over budget because if you recall, in fire, we only budgeted, I believe, $90,000 for overtime. However, the running rate for overtime is about $7 million. For next year, we're properly budgeting for overtime, not only in fire, but in the police department and all the other departments. So we're finally bringing that to the correct level in the budget to match what our running rate is in overtime.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that. And we've also discussed addressing how we can have hiring so that we're not paying the time and a half for overtime. How are we doing with those numbers? Do we have an idea of how much hiring we need to do and how quickly we can do that to bring that overtime budget down?
It's my understanding that's what the discussions we'll be having between now and the fall with the labor partners in regards to the proper models that are needed, what's the proper staffing model for each department, for each division, and come up with the ways to reduce overtime.
Okay, so it hasn't happened yet, but we are going to have that.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And then is there any possibility, since 80% of our budget is going to salaries and benefits, it sort of seems to me that there ought to be a way for us to stay ahead of the curve, so to speak, so that we're not giving the appearance of handing it out with one hand and taking it back with the other. What would have to happen? What has to happen institutionally and in our thinking and in our process so that we don't get back to this point again?
I think the biggest piece, and I can defer to Assistant City Manager Youngblood, is just the proper fiscal impacts and understanding those pieces as we move forward.
Yeah, I think Acting Director Ettman or Interim Director Ettman is on the right track. I think what we need to do as an organization is to look at what our fiscal situation is prior to going into negotiations and understanding exactly what we can and cannot afford before we bargain contracts.
Okay, that's a great idea. Only, and I don't mean any slight by this, but just talking about that honestly, from my experience, we had all that. We had budget books, we had diagrams, we had pictures, we had graphs, and we're nowhere close. So, what needs to happen to get us close so that we're not continually chasing ourselves?
I think the answer still remains the same in understanding exactly how much we're willing to spend on labor contracts before we start negotiations.
Okay. City Manager?
I think another way of looking at it is that while some new revenue is anticipated late in the next fiscal year or into fiscal year 27, the city can expand in terms of programs or FTEs while revenue grows. So there won't be new programs, can't afford it. There won't be new personnel added, can't afford it. Because not only is there current compensation, there's also long-term compensation impacts. So the main effort is maintaining core services, but programs will be a luxury.
Say that last word again.
New programs will be a luxury. Okay. Because new programs require people. So what I see is and we are in contract with all bargaining groups. They bargain for and are entitled to get what they bargain for unless they agree to come and share some of the heartburn and pain. But over the next few years, it's going to be, from my perspective, tight. Core services are going to be retained, but I don't see the 700 general fund employees or the 253 enterprise funded employees growing beyond the total of 953.
That could be painful since we are a growing city, and I think we have to consider what that impact is going to be. Anyway, we'll carry this on in future discussions, but thank you for your candor. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Council members or Menu?
Mayor, thank you, and thank you, staff, for the good report. I agree with Mr. Lawson, heartburn, so it's a good one. Let's see, I'm not overly impressed with not working or doing away with a couple of the programs that can lead to a stronger economic climate in our city. I think that we need to shop Hayward first. We need to make sure that we have our empty storefronts filled, and we need to ensure that we have a very active, positive system, program of retaining, of attracting, and businesses to our city. That's what is going to really help us out of this particular hole. So glad that there will be a fall revise. I'm glad that our acting city manager has stated that when there is a need for the economic development program for some funds, then at that time something will be done. I think that's positive. So go out and shop Hayward first, please. In my mind, the solution to this $9 million deficit is overtime and attrition. So we have 70 positions that are unfilled. So my first question is, the 79.8 part of the expenses that we have, does that include the 70 positions that are not filled?
Included in this budget, we have already taken a major portion of the vacancy savings and accounted for that. So had we not included the vacancy savings, your deficit would actually be larger.
All right, so the 70 positions are not in that 79.8?
They are not.
They are not.
We have an automatic assumption of roughly around 6% of the vacancy savings that we're using, and our current rate is 9 or 10%. So we're taking almost all of the assumptions in our vacancy savings to lower our expenditures for next year.
Okay, so to try to understand this, how would overtime, which last I heard was 15 million, but now you were stated as a reduction of 1.5, so it's $13.5 million in overtime. How is that related to 70 positions that are not filled? How can we marry those two items so that we can bring that deficit down?
And that's part of the complication, council members. That's what we're looking at now as we meet with our labor partners, is how vacancy management and overtime are related, and how filling positions or not filling positions, or minimum staffing or staffing for certain levels in different departments, how that impacts not only overtime, but the positions needed. And so that's the analysis that we're going to bring back to council.
Right, and those 70 vacancies are not in enterprise funds, correct? So if there's a vacancy in the water department, that will not help us.
Correct.
Okay, so it has to be within the 700 or so. Okay, I'm sure that there are some positions that don't need to be filled. So that's going to be, I suppose, work of all the executive team to ensure that we can work on that. I don't think anybody wants to hear dismissals or rifts or personnel losses. I think that would not be healthy. So I think attrition is the best way. And we really need to work on overtime. And you said the overtime is budgeted already for next year?
Correct.
And it's budgeted at $14 million?
It's actually $13 million, Councilmember.
$13 million?
Correct.
Okay, and why can't you budget it in $9 million or $8 million or $7 million?
That's part of the
we're setting the
complication.
budget.
That's part of the complication, council members of menu, and that much of that overtime is contractually obligated. And so what we're doing is looking at the contracts that we have and the agreements that we have with our labor partners to untangle that and really understand what's required and where there might be opportunity for savings.
Okay, all right. Okay, those are my comments. Thank you much. go on. Your next car should be bought in Hayward. Thank you.
Thank you. Last year and this year, the top 3 increases of the Alameda County, of all the cities, all 14 cities, the top 3 increases of property tax rolls in first place was Fremont at 5%. At second place was Hayward at 5%. And third place was Dublin at 4%. Last year, it was Berkeley, Alameda, and Dublin. So, these are increases in property taxes. And so, this is people are buying homes or property taxes are increasing. But these are, that's a little bit of good news or, a nice little outlook as we look ahead. But the 2 questions I just want to focus on right now is Measure C and Measure K. Those funds that are generated through C and K, they are partitioned, protected, and what we generate through C and K1, we continue to deliver the services that we promised on those, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I just want to be, I want to be clear about that because while we sit here and talk about, our economic situation, I want to make sure that the public knows that the North Star, for me and for many of us up here, if not all of us up here, the North Star is C and K1. The big umbrella, of course, are core services. But I just wanted to make sure we are focused on that. I don't have any further questions, but what I want to do is I wanted to go from council questions, move on to public comment. I don't have any public comment cards, and there are 2 public comment online. The first public commenter is Zoom user. Zoom user.
Hi, I'm the Zoom user that tried to comment about the art budget. Am I allowed to comment now?
If you're talking about the art budget, go right ahead. We can plug it in here, sure.
Great, thank you. So I'm Suzanne Luther, and I'm a tax-paying citizen here in Hayward. I've lived here my whole life. I live in the house I grew up in. So my opinion or my comments are, so the city is dealing with a huge budget shortfall or deficit, whatever you want to call it. You recently just fired the new city manager, Dr. Alvarez, who you hired to slap you guys back into place and fix your shortfall issues. And she was doing a great job. But you bent to the liberal employees' pushback that they were required to come back to work as a means to cut prices. And you did this based on the employees' outrage for not being treated with a velvet glove. I'm sorry, I'm an employer. I expect my employees to come to work, I expect them to show up on time, and I expect them to do their job. So I don't treat my employees with velvet gloves, and I don't think anyone needs to be dealt with velvet gloves. And then let's talk about the elephant in the room. You've spent your budget by paying for illegal immigrants and all their benefits. This is the same problem that all cities and counties and states are dealing with right now. I don't think you should be paying $50,000 to $70,000 for a study to see if we should do art in Hayward. Why don't you pay the children who get the art awards? Why don't you pay them $1,000 or $2,000 for putting their art in Hayward? Instead of just a proclamation or a whatever you guys do for the artwork that the kids do. Why don't you do that instead of spending thousands of dollars on studies and whatever you guys always do? You do studies and I can't remember what it is. But I just don't think you should be spending money that you don't have in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller is Ron Collins, SEIU 1021.
It's not a study, it's a...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council members and staff. So a little disheartening, if I may, the meeting, and I understand everyone in many places are going through tough times, and the projections moving in the future with the current administration in Washington, D.C. is probably not looking much better. But I want to say that I took, as I'm listening tonight, and it's a little frustrating to me that we heard a lot about labor, labor this and labor that, and, we're spending too much on labor. Just a couple of meetings ago, folks, I stood up here and I spoke against a very large raise going to the city clerk, but that was voted for and it was adopted by the elected officials here tonight. They voted on approving that raise, and in my opinion, they should not have done that. Moreover, there's a couple of things that could have happened up until now that haven't happened. I understand legally you have an obligation to meet with the unions, and we'll negotiate, we'll meet and confer and try and figure this out collectively and see where we land on this. But I didn't hear anything about any of the management folks. Like, you could have already cut that from your payroll. Cut that from your budget. I didn't hear anything about, management payroll being cut. So, it's a little disheartening that it's about labor, and we don't hear anything about what you're doing to downsize management or to correct the wages that management receives. The other piece I want to talk about is someone mentioned, I apologize, I don't remember who it was, but someone mentioned overtime is an obligation of the contract. Well, to some degree, that's a true statement. But on the other hand, it's not a true statement. If you manage properly and you staff properly, you don't have to pay overtime. And obviously, there's not an obligation in our contract to pay people overtime, to pay the workers overtime, unless they work the overtime. And if you're managing properly, and I understand emergencies come up and things like that, if you manage properly, you wouldn't have to pay the overtime. And I do believe, I've done a lot of budget works, especially when I was in Washington, D.C. I do believe that there's a way to save money when you look at the overtime situation and recognizing that overtime is going to happen. No one's perfect and emergency situations come up. The other piece that I didn't hear a lot about is who's going to be impacted by these cuts. The workers, the represented workers, and the public, which is pretty sad, that they're going to be impacted by this as well. I'm just looking at my notes. Bear with me 1 second. One of the council members talked about rewarding departments that, save the money or what have you. I agree with that we should reward those as long as they're not cutting wages and benefits. I don't think any department should be rewarded for cutting wages and benefits. And the last thing I'll say, and I appreciate your all's time, is workers are assets to be developed, not costs to be cut. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is TJ from Hayward Concerned Citizens.
Hi there, it's TJ with HCC. For the sake of transparency, I would like to ask if there is a list of which vacancies are being cut for budget savings. I think the public has a right to that information. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller is Rose A.
That's Ro Aguilar. I still haven't fixed that. Anyway, I appreciate the difficult decisions that we're having to make in this budget and CIP. And I'm kind of thinking we're going to have to go back to the drawing board because it feels like this budget is not for the time or the city. that we're in. We're in a housing crisis. The council passed an emergency resolution. We've got a strategic plan that preserve, protect, and provide housing for all. We have 400 plus and growing homeless people in Hayward. We have hundreds of Hayward Unified School Districts and families living in unstable and substandard housing. And homeless is one of the 3 top priorities of the Hayward Community Survey. So, and it's not only Hayward, it's, you know, outside sources. Federal and state funds are uncertain. So I see that we have no easy answers here. Let me establish that. We need innovative and different approaches to this budget. The federal and state funds are uncertain, and so I see that in this budget we have the Housing Navigation Center and the Safe Parking initiative, which you know, is adequate funding. But what amount of funding in this budget specifically, and the CIP in particular, specifically addresses infrastructure for housing homeless? Let's do the math. This amount of funding for the Navigation Center and Safe Parking addresses a minuscule percentage of needed urgent housing. We need major funding across the spectrum from every funding source. I support Hayward aggressively collaborating with the county and other Alameda County cities to fund transitional long-term housing infrastructure for homeless. And in case anyone doesn't know by now, what I advocate for, it's owned or leased hotels that are rehabilitated with wraparound services. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more public comment, and I don't have any cards up here. And so I want to come back to the dais and see if there's any questions. Councilmember Syra.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the folks that called in to give public comment. I do agree that managing overtime is going to be critical in this next year. My request is especially for the Public Safety Committee. I know we just did a police assessment that took quite some time, and we have a real opportunity to realize savings as we rethink what our potential for a beat schedule looks like moving forward, because it hasn't been updated in maybe, I don't want to get this wrong, Chief, how many decades, 20, 30 years? About that long. So I think there are real opportunities as we look at how we manage current processes to realize savings without impacting staff numbers. And so I just really, as we proceed to the next year, want to keep an eye on where and how can we realize savings through better management. I want to push back a little bit on Acting City Manager Lawson's comments that new programs are a luxury. I think we have an obligation as a council to be flexible and responsive to community needs. And it's our job to figure out how to make it work. I agree that we don't want to just throw money at every new idea that comes our way, but similar to the public art program and this small investment that we're making in it, to conduct this study to understand how we can run it sustainably with fees and not necessarily general fund dollars, to generate more economic development and revenue that comes in, that feels like a worthwhile investment. So while we are tightening our belts, we also should be mindful of the kinds of investments we want to make that will yield greater returns. Some of those returns can look like, you know, to Rose's point, our public commenter, investing in homelessness and housing so that we don't have to use money on emergency services and save the city money in that way. That could be a worthwhile investment. As we've heard from our community services manager, prevention yields significant savings for the city. And so if there are better methods of prevention or we need to retool our current programs, I don't want us to be afraid of doing that, because that's one of the ways we get ourselves out of this deficit. So while we are in a time of scarcity, I don't want us to operate with too much of a scarcity mindset if it prevents us from actually addressing problems in a smarter way. And I also just want to communicate that we are fighting for Measure W dollars. We talk about it all the time with staff. We're making significant progress towards renovating St. Regis. We are really, I think, leading the charge when it comes to developing really innovative and collaborative solutions with our county partners to put a dent in the problem around homelessness. Of course, there's always more work that we can do, but some of those dollars and some of those partnerships aren't necessarily reflected in this budget. And I'm always happy to have more conversations about that with Roe offline. And any other community members that are concerned about that issue. Clearly, we have a lot of work to do. Ron's comments and our perspective towards labor do not go unnoticed. I personally consider members of HAIM as one of the labor bargaining groups, and so management is part of at least how I think about labor collectively, although I know there's unrepresented employees that aren't part of HAIM either. But this is going to be a group effort. I just want to make that clear. We're, as a council, I think, putting everything on the table as we try to address this deficit. And I don't want anyone or any particular group to feel singled out in particular. Thank you for all the work that went into this to get us to this point. I think we have a decision we have to make tonight, but we're not taking our foot off the gas as it relates to addressing this deficit.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the staff. And I know there was a lot of effort going into this presentation, so thank you, Director Aitman. Thank you, Assistant City Manager Regina Youngblood, and Nick Mullins for all your work, and the rest of staff. I do also want to just say that I understand the timing of this public art impact fee review is it does seem odd during this time, but this is something that we have been waiting for years to review this. It has been a long, ongoing effort to review this as part of our strategies for economic development. I want to thank Councilmember Sayed for reminding us of strategies of what we're trying to do to help reduce blight in our city. This is also not just about economic development. This is also reducing the things that I'm sure the folks that call in don't like seeing, which is graffiti. So this is a way to reduce maintenance, to help other departments in making sure that we are maintaining a good quality life here. And that's one of the reasons why we are reviewing this. And again, this is a relatively small ask as it relates to studies. This is something that we have to do for all fees that is required for our city to do that if we were to add on an impact fee. I look forward to the fall revise. I want to reiterate the need for making sure that we revisit the budget for economic development. Also want to ensure, again, I want to reiterate what the mayor says, is that we are continuing on the efforts that we are looking at for the Measure K1, in addition to making sure that we have an efficient budget. I also look forward to staff and keeping us abreast of any other grants and other opportunities that can come to the city. And hopefully we can all work with not just our labor partners, but everyone, work with our managers, work with our staff in order for us to make sure that we have a sound budget. So thank you so much for, again, all your efforts, and I look forward to the fall revise.
Thank you. I don't see any more speakers, and so...
Sorry, Mayor Salinas.
Yes.
Just a couple of additional observations. The city and county have had some encouraging conversations about allocation of Measure W funds. The County Board of Supervisors will start making those decisions in the middle of July. So there is some, I think, good news on the way in terms of supporting homelessness and affordable housing opportunities. On the other hand, this budget does not have a cushion if executive orders start having significant impacts on programs, people, and communities. As I move back to my city attorney role, dealing with executive orders and how that's affecting communities statewide through the city attorney's community, that will certainly be a big part of my responsibility. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to join in with everyone else and say thank you to Mr. Ettman, you and your staff have done a phenomenal job here. The Budget and Finance Committee I serve on with Councilmember Bonilla and Councilmember Syrup, your staff, truly, just so that folks know, your staff has always been very steady, very clear with us, and very honest with us. When we talk about what Councilmember Roach talked about in terms of how did we get here? You and your staff have been very clear with us, and your solutions and your insight have always well informed us. So I wanted to thank you for that and appreciate that. Also, I want to thank the executive team. The executive team has has worked real hard. I know it's causes a lot of consternation, and I know it causes a lot of heartburn. But you were able to do it, and and for us to sit up here and say that we're still not done. I can only imagine what you're thinking, and sort of at tomorrow's executive team meeting, the consternation begins again. And so I know we're all in this together. I know you understand what this means to the city. And I think historically, I've been here some time, and I think historically the executive team has led, in efforts in making sure that at least the fiscal side of our house has always been solvent and has been strong, and that we've been well positioned. Also, I wanted to acknowledge our labor partners. I would be remiss if I did not talk about, when we have asked our labor partners to come through and help us and help us get through tough economic times, they've showed up. They have. I've been up here, Councilmember Cermeño and I have been up here the longest, and our labor groups have always showed up. They've been professional. They've been open, transparent. We might bicker, and we might, disagree at the edges in some of the debates and conversations, but at the end of the day, we have always delivered something that has made this city a strong, economically, fiscally sound city. And so I want to just express to our labor partners that, we get it, and we're in this together. And I know we're all employees. And we certainly don't want to see this city go bankrupt. We certainly don't want to see this city suffer and struggle. But it's going to take all of us. I have had conversations with labor groups, and I have certainly listened. One of the expectations, all of our groups, from SEIU all the way to management, is if we were to have any kind of conversation or discussion around contracts, we need to start discussing that now. We need to be transparent. We need to be honest. We need to be open, and just trust each other. That's it. We just got to trust each other, and that trust comes through starting early, being honest, and educating ourselves, all of us. And so we've done this before, and for those who have never done this, for those groups that haven't done this process with us before, give us time. We'll bring you along, and we'll get there. But we need to trust each other. We can't call and public comment and, and start lauding things at us and all of that. Relationships in situations like this, we need to depend on our relationships. We need to lean on our relationships, and I think that's where we can get through this. I know my colleagues. I've spoken to every single one of them, and they all mean good. We all intend. We all have good intentions, and we all want to see this through. Next, I just want to. My last point I want to make is, for those who know me, I'm in the education business, and when you hear and listen to school boards talk about cutting budgets, the big mantra is keep the cuts as farthest away from the classroom. Keep the cuts as farther away from instruction, and I would. I really want to challenge the executive team, and I'm gonna say this, and dare I say it, and I might get some eyebrows when I say this, but I think the acting city manager made a very interesting point when he said that our economic development department is the one department that generates revenue, generates jobs, and it generates property taxes, and there's a lot of Councilmember Andrews and Councilmember Bonilla, and we have seen the overwhelming success of the jobs programs that it comes out of the Economic Development Department. We've seen overwhelming success in getting small businesses open, built out, lights turned on, front doors open, and people walking into the walking in and shopping. And I would the one department that I think we're all committed to, and the one department that I know that really generates a lot of, I was going to say economic activity, but just economic enthusiasm, I think is economic development. So, and I know, Paul's sitting right in front of me, and I certainly don't want the entire executive team to come and sit right in front of me, so I focus on them. But I really do mean, I really want us to think about what can we do to keep our economic development department strong. I get it. We may have to cut some stuff, but as furthest away from economic development, I would really like to see that, because I think I've heard that up here unanimously. With that, I just wanted to conclude and say thank you to everybody, and this conversation is not over, and I'm looking forward to October. And with that, I would like to move staff's recommendation with the amendment that is being proposed by our finance director.
Mr. Mayor, if I may interrupt for just 1 second.
Yes.
Thank you for considering the friendly amendment to the resolution. I do also want to thank Acting City Manager Lawson for his leadership through this time, his integrity through this process. We went through a major leadership change, as you know, in the last month in multiple positions. I just wanted to thank him for that. I wanted to thank Assistant Director Youngblood and exec team, as you mentioned, but I do want to call out the budget team by name, and that's Senior Management Analyst Nicholas Mullins, our Management Analyst Francesca Hatfield, and my left and right hand person who is doing the majority of the work behind the scenes, and that's Deputy Director Crosby, Christina, for her help.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Thank you. Moved by Mayor Salinas, and I heard a voice, moved by Councilmember Goldstein. And if there are no further questions, Madam City Clerk. we can take roll.
Yes,
And we
Mr.
will,
Mayor.
we will refresh our screens.
Mr. Mayor, and I just for the record, so the friendly amendment is to the operating budget by listing attachment 10 as reference.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Thank you.
And please go ahead and refresh your iPads. Okay.
Mr. Ettman, we got you a 7-0 vote. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 18, which is PH 25-033, which is the GAN limit adoption. Adopt a resolution establishing a GAN appropriations limit for fiscal year 2026. And this report is going to come to us by way of Director Ettman. But what I am going to do is I am going to forgo staff report and come straight to council questions. And if there are no council questions, I'll go straight to public comment. And I don't see any council questions. I'll go straight to public comment. There are no public comment. There is nobody online, so I have to close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilmember
second.
Syrup, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Roach. Madam City Clerk, you can take the roll.
Councilmember Andrews? Thank you. Thank you.
And the item unanimously passes. Thank you. Moving on to item number 19, which is the electrification reach code, introduction of a revised electrification reach code ordinance with minor modifications required by California Building Standards and Commission. Adopt a resolution making findings in support of local modifications to the 2022 California Building Code standard codes, and finding that the action is exempt from CEQA. This report is going to come to us by our Public Works Director, Mr. Amiri, but I hear that Mr. Amiri is going to give us this report at a high level and take less than 3 minutes. And
I don't need 3 minutes.
okay.
Basically, you approved the REACH code in 2021. We submitted that and then heard from the California Building Standards Commission that we needed to do some formatting changes and some of the definitions. No substantive changes, so we have that now before you to go ahead and please vote on it.
Thank you. So thank you for staff report. I will come back to the dais. There are no questions at the dais. I'll close the dais, open up for public comment. I don't see any public comment. Close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Councilmember Zermeño.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bonilla. And Madam City Clerk, you can take roll.
Councilmember Cermeño, I believe that's a yes, correct? Thank you.
And item unanimously passes. Thank you. Moving on to item number 20, which is an informational item. This is an update on the city fleet electrification and electric vehicle charging. This is purely an informational item, and if there are no questions, we will close questions, and I will move on to the next item, which is council reports and announcements. And I believe, although she hasn't hit the button, I believe Councilmember Andrews has an announcement.
We've mentioned Juneteenth a few times today, so yeah, Saturday, 2 to 6, Heritage Plaza. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Syrup.
I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the folks across the entire city of Hayward and surrounding cities who came out for the No Kings rally / Ice Out of Hayward protest. I wanted to give a special thanks to Stephanie Widger, who helped organize the No Kings Rally and was gracious enough to allow the organization that I'm with, the Hayward Community Coalition, to merge rallies and march together. We had, I believe, close to, if not over 2,000 attendees, and I think it was just an incredible show of solidarity with our community, especially our immigrant neighbors. You know, I'm incredibly proud that Hayward remains a sanctuary city. I'm incredibly proud that our school district is a sanctuary school district, and I'm really proud of the people of Hayward for coming out. And I also want to thank my colleagues up here who had the opportunity to join us for part, if not all, of the march and the protest. And of course, a big shout out to the Hayward Community Coalition. We were able to spin up that protest in about 72 hours. So it's been a pretty hectic week, and I'm just grateful that so much of the community came out in support. Thanks.
Thank you. I had an announcement, or a report, actually. Last week, you may have noticed I was not here. Mayor Pro Tem Roach ran the meeting. I, on the other hand, I was in Washington, D.C., and Mr. Mayor, you would be proud of me. I was in Washington, D.C. with the Alameda County Transportation Commission. We were doing some advocacy work with the Department of Transportation. We met with Senator, the senator from California, Padilla, and Schiff. We met with both of them. We had a great opportunity. I did meet Senator Schiff, and we made our pitch. We also met with representatives from the Department of Transportation, and we also met on our last day. We met with representatives from the White House, and our meetings I felt were productive. We focused on two of the main areas that they were focusing on was in the area of transportation was safety, safety for children, safety for families. And particularly, my responsibility was to talk about rail. And so I was talking about making our railroad interchanges and railroad crossings and trackways and railways modern, safe, and clean along the 880 corridor. And so, it was a good productive trip, and I just wanted to acknowledge the Alameda County Transportation Commission that I belong to, and hopefully the other area that we focused on too was we were urging the administration to maintain and to follow through with the transportation-related commitments that had already been committed to in Alameda County and all of the cities within Alameda County. And so they were, promising conversations, and so that's why I was not here last week. So I wanted to thank Mayor Pro Tem Roach. I did watch the meeting, and you did a pretty good job. There are no council referrals. I should also mention, too, that tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, I will be on a flight to the East Coast. I will be participating, I'll be attending and participating in the U.S. Mayor's Conference in Tampa. I'll be there until Sunday, and I'll be out of town between now and Sunday. Before I go to council referral, there are no council referrals. So before I adjourn, I did want to go back to closed session announcements. I did fail to make one closed session announcement, and the announcement I wanted to make was we have extended paid admin leave for Dr. Ana Alvarez until next Tuesday, June 24th. So with that said, next meeting is June 24th, 2025. And just so that you know, there is a typo on the agenda. It says June 4th, 2025. It should say 24th, but next meeting is June 24th, 2025, 7 p.m. Meeting adjourned. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the big one.